Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm glad that you're here, and today I am going to share with you some of my favorite things. Although somebody else that used to live in Chicago may have already trademarked that term. So things that bring me joy. How about that? So to start with, as you can see behind me, I have this lovely hyacinth plant, which is starting to get a little droopy. She doesn't get a whole lot of sun right here in my living room, this corner of my living room. But I bought her a little over a week ago, just at my grocery store when I was in there buying my weekly groceries. And she just had little tiny nubs of the bloom starting to come up at that point. And in just over a week's time, she's really taken off and filled out and has filled my living room especially, but actually my whole house with the lovely scent of spring, the scent of hyacinths. And bonus that she's my favorite color, and I just love having this here. It's right inside my front door, so every time I enter my front door, I smell the hyacinths, I see the beautiful purple blooms, and it really brings me joy in these late winter days and evenings. The second thing that is bringing me joy is a Christmas gift that I received from my youngest daughter, and it is this gorgeous, comfy, oh my God, so comfy alpaca sweater. And it has a hood, it's a hoodie, and they advertise that it's made with alpaca yarn, that the alpaca is warmer and softer than cashmere. And I don't own a lot of cashmere, but I did get lucky at the thrift store last couple weeks ago to find a real 100% cashmere sweater in my size. And I can attest, this one is almost as soft as the cashmere, maybe as soft as the cashmere. And every time, I've only washed it a couple times because it's hand wash. It gets softer. It gets softer every time I wear it. Every time I wash it, it gets a little bit softer. And I went on a retreat at the end of January, and it was very cold. We were going up in the mountains in Alabama, and very cold weekend, and I took this with me and I wore it pretty much exclusively that weekend, and I love it. And the other thing I love about it, it's not just the luxury of having an alpaca sweater, is that this company is makes everything is handmade in Peru and is made sustainably, harvested and spun and created sustainably. And each sweater comes with a little tag with the name of the woman who made the sweater. And as far as my research has shown, they enable these women to live independently and get paid a livable wage to make these sweaters. So that makes me feel really good that well, I guess my daughter's dollars, but have supported a company that is not doing fast fashion, but is doing sustainable and good for the earth and good for the humans on the earth as well. So I love the sweater, and I can link in the description below the company that my daughter bought this from. The third item is not an item. It is something that has been just bringing me simple joy, and it is a couple of YouTubers that I have been watching somewhat obsessively, perhaps, over the last couple weeks or last month or so. And through one of them, I found the other, and I've been the first one I've been watching quite a while, more than just a month. But then through her, I found another one, and the first one is Danu's Irish Herb Garden, and it's with Terry Conroy, who's a fairly well-known, I think, herbalist in the west of Ireland. And she and her two little dogs and her chickens, and they have this beautiful herb garden, and she's just relaxing and educational to just listen to her talk and share her life and her knowledge about herbs and plants and the natural world. And I just fantasize about living in the west of Ireland and being her neighbor every time I watch her. And then through her, I discovered Colette O'Brien at the Bealtaina's Cottage, also in the west of Ireland, and I've recently ordered her book, but since her books are manufactured, printed, well, she writes them, and she has them printed, and she ships them herself from her little village in the west of Ireland. It's going to be a minute till I get that book, but I am going to devour it when I get it. But she bought this lovely little cottage, somewhat, I believe, I haven't gone back to the very beginning of her, gotten all the way back to the beginning of her videos, but somewhat run down, perhaps little cottage. I don't know about the condition of the cottage, but the land itself was quite barren, former farmland in the west of Ireland, abandoned farmland, and she, over 12 years, has rejuvenated it and planted trees and herbs and flowers and plants and everything. And she and her dog Jack and her cats live there, and she shares her daily life. It's just very simple. It's just a very simple, no contrived YouTube content creating, just sharing her life, and I adore it. And I love to listen to her as well, share her life and her knowledge, and I'm really looking forward to getting her book. So I will link both of those, two different wonderful women, wonderful crones from Ireland, in my description, so that you can maybe also fall into their wonderful fairyland of life that they live. I mean, to me, it's a fairy tale. To them, it's every day, but lucky them, right? But they work very hard for it. So then the next thing that I finally did after living here for 5.5 years in this town is I went and I got myself a library card from the Chattanooga Public Library. I'm so excited to finally have a library card. I grew up in a small town in the Midwest that had a Carnegie library, and then I lived in another smallish but much bigger town in the suburbs of Chicago that also had a Carnegie library for years, and I would take my kids there for all the library programs when they were little and check out, spend hours in the stacks of that library. And I don't know why it took me so long to go get a library card living here in Chattanooga. I'd heard wonderful things about our library. It's fairly convenient. Parking is not the greatest at our library, but still, I finally did it, and it was so easy. I should have done it. So if you live somewhere that has a public library, which you probably do, go get yourself a library card, especially if you want to live a more minimalistic and sustainable lifestyle, because books are made from trees. And while I fully support authors and want them to make money from their books, sometimes we can't afford to buy all the books that we want to read, especially if you're an avid reader like I am sometimes. When I'm reading, I read quite a bit, and now that I live alone, and especially the late winter here when it's been too cold and dark to go do other things in the evenings, I quite often just sit and read here in my little home. So if I were to buy a book every time I wanted to read another book, I'm finding I'm running out of bookshelf space, and I'm running out of budget for books. So go to your library, and this is the first library book that I checked out, and I did it in the most wonderful way. I was able to go on their website and search for certain books that I had on my reading list that I wanted to read, and reserve them. And when they're available, when there are a couple of the other ones that I have on my reserve list are checked out, so I have to wait till the copies become available, and they'll send me an email or a text to say, your book's ready. And you just walk in, you grab it off the shelf where it's reserved with your name, and check it out. You can even do curbside pickup, which I think most libraries are doing now in these days of pandemic. So this is a great book, by the way. I'm about halfway-ish, maybe a little bit past halfway through it, and it's been a very good read. It was a YouTuber recommendation, and so I'm hoping to get it read and have the next book that is on my to-read list be available at the library when I'm finished with this one, and save a tree, save myself some money, support my local library, and it all works out for everybody. So the last items are not really there. Well, there's something, I guess, in a way I've purchased, but I am repurposing or just using every last little bit of. Since my kidney stone this fall, I've made a few modifications to what I eat and drink. And one of the things they told me not to drink as much of, I can't give it up completely, is tea. So most days I will make an herbal tea or something like that. But I do like a hot cup of something, and I'm not a coffee drinker in the mornings. So what I have begun to do is take the juice of a lemon and a tablespoon of organic apple cider vinegar in a cup, and then pour hot water on that and add a couple spoons of honey to sweeten it up to taste, and drinking that every morning. They say that the ACV and the citric acid in the lemon juice helps to break up the compounds that make the type of kidney stone that I had. I am not a urologist, and I figure it can't hurt. I don't know. I haven't had another kidney stone, but I didn't expect to have another kidney stone this soon. But it's plus it gives me a little extra shot of vitamin C and all the good things, benefits of ACV. But before I juice my lemon, what I have been doing is peeling the zest, just the yellow part of the skins off. And I also buy organic lemons only and wash them. And then this last batch, I have just been putting them in this little cup that sits on top of the microwave on my countertop right next to where I make my tea in the morning. And they have dried out really well. They're dry and crispy. I won't have to put these through the dehydrator. The first few batches I put the peeled zests in my refrigerator, and then at the end of the week, put them in my dehydrator and dehydrated them. But I'm finding that this seems to be working just as well, at least right now while we're in the winter when the air in my house is fairly dry. Come summer, when it's humid Tennessee summer, I probably will have to go back to the dehydrator method, but this seems to be working. And then after they dry, I run them through my blender or a food processor if you have one, but I don't, and I make this wonderful bright yellow lemon zest powder. And I can use it in recipes for anything that calls for lemon zest. I can just add a little bit of the powder. I could rehydrate it and make it more of a liquid lemon thing. You can sprinkle it on fish. You can mix it with ground black pepper and make a lemon pepper seasoning for fish, chicken, pork chops, whatever. Put a little bit into soup. I made a butternut squash and soup and ginger soup the other day, like a week ago, and put just a little bit of this into it to add a little bit of zing. So if you don't have lemons or lemon juice, having this on hand to substitute is a really great substitution. And I've been using it for a lot of different things. And then the second thing is when I was doing that, I've also been saving my eggshells. And I have another little bowl on the kitchen counter that I rinse my eggshells after I crack an egg, toss them in there. And the best way to do it, I have found, if I remember to do it, is when I'm preheating my oven for something else, I spread those eggshells out on a cookie sheet or something and put them in the oven while the oven preheats. And that usually dries them out and also helps to kill any bacteria or anything on them and dries them out. And then I put them in my little mortar and pestle and grind them up like the little old witch I am and save them. And so now I have eggshell powdered eggshells and they could actually be ground again to make them more powdery. These are, especially this last little bit, they kind of almost look like large flake glitter. Ooh, I could use them as glitter. But there's a lot of different things you can use powdered eggshells for. One of my favorites is to just mix a little bit into the tops of my houseplants and I guess my garden plants as well. I have a bunch of herbs in containers outside, so when I go to refresh them this spring, I'll probably mix a little bit of eggshell in them. Also, when I go to plant these spent hyacinths out in the flower beds, I'll mix a little bone, because it's like bone meal, it's calcium. But you can also put a little bit into your smoothies to add calcium to your smoothies instead of taking a calcium supplement. Again, I'm not a medical person or certified health advisor, so I'm just telling you what I do with them. Mix them in with your animals' food, your pet food. If your animals need a little extra calcium boost, that's always beneficial. And you can use them for magic. You can use it as a substitute for salt when casting a circle or putting up a protective boundary, because salt on the earth can contaminate the soil and kill plants if you're doing your ritual outside, whereas eggshells are just going to aid to build up the calcium and the good things in the soil. So it's all natural. Other things. Oh, I have seen a recipe. I haven't tried it yet, but of grinding this up into really powdered form. And I don't remember. I'll have look. Pinterest is your friend. Google it, figure it out. But recipes to make chalk out of ground eggshells. So, and putting it in molds and making like chunky sidewalk chalk. I don't have young children that would be using sidewalk chalk anymore, but you could do that and mix in a little bit of magic with it. And if you're drawing sigils on things with chalk, make some magic chalk as well. And then of course eggshells can be a pretty common, I think, ingredient to use in spell jars and that type of spell work. So that is how I make my calcium powder or my eggshell powder, and some of the things I use it for. And it's just a very simple thing. And now my eggshells would go into my compost anyway, so they never went to waste, but now they have another life, another use. So that's just a few simple things that have been bringing me joy this late winter season. Also, another camera might be picking it up, but these breezy early spring days, my wind chimes on the front porch are singing to me all the time, and I can hear them now, so I'm guessing that the camera can hear them as well. So that also brings me a little joy. Maybe I'll share those with you another day. So if you have enjoyed seeing what brings me joy, another thing that brings me joy is that I've had a nice little uptick in the last month or so in followers, subscribers to my YouTube channel, and likes and comments. And I really, really do appreciate that. I'm trying to grow this channel as much as I can so that I have a platform to share my years of knowledge about all the things that I have knowledge of, and also to build community. And my goal is by the end of 2022 to be able to grow this channel to a sustainable point and add some more features and maybe be able to do some lives and Q&As and things. But what I need to be able to do that are likes and subscribers, and to have that community that is looking for that information. So if you know anyone else that would be interested in the types of things that I offer here, little glimpses into my daily life, my favorite things that bring me joy, my animals, my crafting and making and sewing projects that I like to share, and DIYs. So any of those things, if you know someone who you think might be interested, please share this link with them, the link to my channel. And if you haven't already subscribed and hit the notifications button, please do that as well. And take a minute to look at some of my older videos. I'd like to think I'm getting better as I do this, the longer I do this. And but there are a few that are a little cringy, but hey, we all have to start somewhere. And I'm going to leave them there, because if I'm anything, I'm all about being transparent and being real with y'all. I just get a minute and I sit down and I make a video when I have time. And not a whole lot of production going into this. So anyhow, if you appreciate my realness and my honesty and anything like that, I appreciate your feedback and your comments and your likes and subscriptions. So anyway, witches, peace, love, and happiness. Have a great one. I hope you find something today that brings you joy.